Yeah, there we go. Welcome back to the 19th Annual World Hypnotism Day event with Up Hypnosis Institute and me. I am Patti Scott, and I'm just going to talk for a few minutes here about the medical applications of hypnosis, which is kind of, it's actually a interesting even topic. I've been interested in the medical applications since before I learned hypnosis, because like probably many people who become hypnotists and maybe that are watching this, I was doing things with my mind to heal my body of things doctors said wasn't possible before I ever learned officially how to do hypnosis. So I came at it from the angle that I was doing things with my mind first, and then I got curious about how did I do that? Or how did I even know that that was possible to try to do that? And it started at a very, very young age. And at age 19, I ended up curing myself mentally. And yes, I did find some other help with that, but I cured myself. I'd say 95% of it was my mind from a severe back injury. And the doctors wanted to send me to, surgeries and all these down this road of what the medical profession was going to do. And I did not listen. And I had that inner intelligence that told me not to do it. That's the short version of what got me here. I won't go any more into that because some of you already know that story, but I've never told the whole story. I might, in the book, one of the books I'm going to write, I'm going to follow in Shelley's footprints and maybe at least write one or two books to her 25 or 26 or whatever it is. But the point is, many years later, I started learning medical hypnotherapy when I first started hypnosis. The very same year that I got certified back in California, I became aware of a place in Arizona called the National Board for Hypnotherapy and Hypnotic Anesthesiology. And I got enthralled with the idea. And at the time, my then ex-husband, who was by then my best friend, had to get divorced to become best friends, but that worked out. And he had lymphoma, and he heard about this place. So he wanted to go and find out about how to do hypnosis for his lymphoma. So I followed him there to support him. And the first day, I absolutely fell in love with and was reminded of things I had done using some of these techniques. And so for the entire 30 years I've been doing this, I was studying the medical, the anesthesia hypnosis. I got registered as a hypnotic anesthesiologist that first or second year. Within a couple of years, I had taken every class I could find. And I was going to conferences and all of that stuff, of course, and learning there as well. So fast forward, I come to Florida, and I already said something about having a goal to be a trainer within 3 years. The universe knew I was ready faster. And 6 months later, I became a trainer for the International Association of Counselors and Therapists, not too long after Robert Otto became the head of it. And I'd known him all of my career. He used to be in Arizona when I would go there and all that. So now I'm a trainer, and Michael Watson, I said, was helping me to become a better trainer. I was working with him at first, bringing him to Palm Harbor from Orlando, and he was doing the trainings, and I was kind of co-training with him until I got comfortable enough to do it alone. And he got busy enough in England at that point that he was never available anymore, so it kind of pushed me out of the nest, and I became a trainer. But then Robert Otto had also a little bit before that, purchased the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association. The place in Arizona that taught the medical and the anesthesia hypnosis had closed. Sean Longacre was the head of it, and he died many years ago, and it just went away. So there was no place focused on that. Now, Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, when Ann Spencer started it, that was supposed to be the focus. But I started noticing they didn't have a single certification in medical or anesthesia hypnosis. So I said, you know what, I've got all this wealth of training and information and study that I've done. And so I started putting together, I said, got to have at least something. So for people who are already certified, I put together a little very, very, minimum 50-hour training within, in person or online nowadays, and with outside assignments and practicums and some coaching and mentoring on the side. And I thought that'll be the first piece. And then I was going to add modules as the years go on. That's still the plan. But at least it got it started. And when I first started teaching it, I realized, it's for people who are already certified. And I said, there's nothing that I can teach a hypnotist about medical hypnosis or medical applications that is different so much from what they've already been doing with their clients. The basics are still the same. That wonderful PowerPoint that Art just showed, that had the basics. It is the same no matter what the presenting issue is. And I had been doing hypnosis long enough that I know when the person comes in with their presenting story, their little story that, they've well rehearsed and they've repeated it, and this is where they're living, this is their reality, all the things that Art was talking about, this is their current trance. And it's supported by the beliefs and the story that they tell and all of the reasons why they have the problem that a lot of them they get in the medical field, of course, the doctor. Here's what you have, and here's why you have it. And here's all the things that caused you to have it and all of that. So you've got lots of great support and reasons for the problem. And this is where I think we are so special, why I love this field. We are trained to get their focus off of the problem and all of their reasons. You might not sound nice, but since you all know what I'm talking about, you could say those are my justifications for continuing to have the problem. Excuses might be another not nice word that I would never use with a client, but that's really that's how they get stuck. Not intentionally, of course, but there's all this support and there's all these reasons and there's all this, and people get stuck. So whether it's a simple one-time headache, or they, stubbed their toe or their finger, or if it's cancer, I don't see it or treat it any differently than I do a smoker or someone with weight. Because when I'm working with a smoker, it's not about the cigarette. They're not smoking because they want a cigarette. They're smoking because of the way it makes them feel. And they started smoking because of the way they thought it would make them feel when they were probably 15 or 16 or 12 or whatever it was. And with food, when they come in saying, I want to lose weight, like Art was saying, first thing we start doing is reframing. That's not really what they want. Because losing something isn't something you don't desire to lose something. It doesn't make sense. Even logical mind, it doesn't make sense. So it's not about the food. It's not about the cigarette. Once they come in, once I get that pre-talk going for a little while and get the gist of the story, and I always say I'm listening to the subtext, and that comes from my acting days. I'm listening for the subtext to the story, behind the symptom, behind the disease, behind the presenting issue, whatever it is. That's where we know is the magic. That's when we can get behind that and hear those clues that their unconscious mind is throwing out at us, because it knows they're there for help. And it knows they're probably very frustrated by the time they come to a hypnotist, and they're probably discouraged and just, all of that. So the unconscious is back there knowing what's good for them, is going to throw us these little clues. And that's what I'm listening for. Their fears, their doubts, their limiting beliefs, those kinds of things. That's what I'm making a little note about. I don't need to write down about the problem. They've got that one down. They've already got that figured out. So, and then the next thing, of course, is what are their motivators? What is the intention? I love that word intention, because intention is another word for goal, right? And the power of intention, there's been a lot out there about that, right? The power of intention is kind of like the power of attraction too. Because if you hold on to a goal and intention, a dominant thought that Art was talking about, and if you keep that at the forefront of your mind and pump some power of emotion and passion into it, and that's when you said you asked your clients 1 to 10 scale. I just do 1 to 100 scales all the time. I just started doing that many years ago because I want everything, because when it's medical especially, I want everything in my office to be as different from what happens at the doctor's as possible. And that's not that hard to do. And that includes the scale of 1 to 10 in the doctor's office. I make it 1 to 100 because it both with, how important is this to you? Or if it's pain, of course, I do a pain scale 1 to 100. And then shortly after it's established, and I get, when they first come in, the number, which is usually 70 or 80 for some reason, then it quickly turns into a comfort scale. So, with that 0 being the most comfortable you could possibly be, where are you on the comfort scale now? And it's always moving. We're always moving our clients in the direction that their unconscious mind really knows they want to go. And that's all that wonderful reframing. Intention, we know, like I was saying, in the medical training, I don't teach people how to do hypnosis. They already know that. It's really, I feel like all I'm really doing is giving them a lot of tools and research and papers and things, supporting materials and some, applications, how they can use the same techniques, timeline and parts therapy and whatever names for all the different techniques that are out there, how they can apply them with confidence. And to me, the whole class is about making them comfortable and confident. Yes, you really can work with cancer. You really can work with anything, no matter, even if you have never heard of it before, because that's the symptom. That's the presenting thing. And we work with what's more important underneath or behind that, I think of. Art always talks about Bruce Lipton. I always talk about Bruce Lipton. He was on the board of directors at the American Board of Hypnotherapy when I first started. And I loved the science behind it. I didn't need it because I was there for me at the time when I first started. I didn't think I was going to become a hypnotist. And I knew that I had healed my back with my mind, right? Because I didn't do what the doctors wanted me to do, thank goodness. And I became a dancer and did all this stuff I wasn't supposed to be able to do. And so the biology of belief, when I heard Bruce Lipton talk, I said, oh, yeah, that makes sense, because I already did it. So I kind of, again, come at it from that angle. Now, I don't know if any of you, I pulled this out just for fun, the messages in water, the hidden messages in water. Any of you familiar with Masaru Emoto? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And this was at one point many years ago, there was a video about these experiments that he did with water, where he had people standing around in all these vials of water from all over the world, different lakes and rivers and tap water, every kind of water imaginable. And he would have people sending intention into the water, meaning, they'd stand around and they'd all be saying, I love you, you're beautiful, or something, those kind. And then alternatively, he would have them also do, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, or whatever they were saying, positive or really negative intention groups of people into the water. And without exception, no matter where the water came from, when they crystallized it, when they were doing the beautiful, happy, I love you, it was always these perfectly, like snowflakes, perfectly formed, right? And the same water then, when they would do the negative stuff, the hateful stuff, would end up being a blob. It would be all misformed and maladjusted. It was just a mess. And no matter what they were, and that's got some great pictures in it, this one. So think about thought, intention of thought. Art was talking about dominant thought. Whatever our dominant thought is going to guide our life. I love themes. I love having themes for clients and having them to come up with a mantra or a word or a symbol of some kind that can be their dominant representation when they're busy, because everybody's busy, that they can just have that one thing that we can start hooking into and hook that to their intention, their goal. The cats know how to focus, don't they? Yeah. They know how to get your focus. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about was intention. And when somebody comes in with a medical issue, they start to take it on as part of their identity. Again, we're not usually the first thing they come to for help, unfortunately. And just to remember, I know in America, I don't know of any place here, and I've heard there's a couple of places in other countries where they don't have to get referrals. I always want to get a doctor's referral anyway, but it is legally necessary to work, with the doctor's referral. And I love that, because then if I'm the only different element in the system that they've been stuck in and not getting results, now all of a sudden that doctor's going to say, wow, she started going to this hypnotist and all of a sudden starting to get some results, because that's what we're about, right? We're about results. And so they take on an identity like, my cancer, my migraines. One of the things we do immediately is start to educate them in how the mind works, like Art does so beautifully with those PowerPoints. And we all have our own ways of doing these. And I get ideas from him every time I hear him talk. And we start to reframe. When you say my migraines, it's all, because we've explained how the mind works. It's like you're claiming it as part of who you are. That's not part of who you are. You didn't come out of the womb with that. And that's something I say a lot to my clients. If you didn't come out of the womb with it, whether it's a behavior or a condition or a disease or whatever, then it's not a part of you. It's something that is happening. It's something that is happening to your body. And I don't want them to claim that. So those are little things that sound simple, but we can always help our clients reframe their language and start to get their conscious mind. We can ask their unconscious mind when they're in hypnosis to allow their conscious mind to become more and more aware when those old limiting thoughts come into their mind, so that we can teach them how to interrupt those and replace them with ones that are absolutely in line with their goal, with the outcome that we're looking for, with the intention. I had so many things I wanted to show you, but I don't have time. But I wanted to show you a little piece. Oh, okay. This is from something I did a while back. I'm not going to go through all this, but basically this is how different we are from the other types of treatments that people are getting. The old way is to treat the external cause, right? The new way for the healing that is starting to accept more and more what we do is to discover the real cause beyond the physical. And the old paradigm was practitioner does something to you or puts something into your body, does something to you. And the new paradigm is looking within the client for the deeper, lasting healing. It doesn't mean that what the doctors are doing isn't necessary, by the way, but this is where we can help with the complete healing. The old way is what's broken and how can we fix it? And what we do, the new way, is what's being called for to attain balance. How can we get this organism back in balance? And the good news is the unconscious always wants to move towards balance and all of that. The World Health Organization, I picked this up a few years when I did this seminar a few years ago, but the goal of medical hypnotherapy, according to the physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness, is what now the World Health Organization says health is the definition of health. So they have added now physical, mental, and social into that. Now, of course, the spiritual is the part that with hypnosis and with working with our clients, we can bring in a higher power. We can bring in that side of it that really hasn't been emphasized in medicine. So we can bring that extra level of awareness and that help from that realm that's beyond the human physical realm. And again, I always say, even if the person doesn't necessarily believe in something beyond the human form, or, that kind of energy work and those kind of things, they still get it. In hypnosis, their mind will still find a way to access it in a way that they will be accepting to. Doesn't mean they might change their beliefs. They might still believe the same thing. But this is one that we talk about a lot. It's in an old book, and I did the research to find out where this came from. But, it gets people's attention when you talk about the effectiveness of hypnosis versus these other things. But I wanted to get a little more detail one time. So I looked up this guy, and it was from 1970. That's how old this is. And it was reported. Alfred Barrios was the doctor who put this together for Psychotherapy magazine. And it was reported in 1970 in Psychotherapy Theory, Practice, and Research. And it was published in American Health magazine. And I think every hypnosis book, training book out there has those stats. So you want to put it in context, but still, it's something that was out there that long ago. And this is the way I think of hypnosis right now, the way the world is of medicine. with medical hypnosis can be right at the center, because we incorporate the best of all of those other worlds. The mind-body medicine, conventional medicine, health psychology. There's something called positive psychology, mindfulness, of course, psychoneuroimmunology, and complementary medicine. All of these things have aspects of, I think they're actually borrowing a lot of them, like mindfulness, and some of these health psychology, positive psychology, have elements of what hypnotists have been doing for decades, if not centuries. So this is just another piece that I think of it as us being at the center that brings all of the best of those modalities together and allows them to be even more effective. I'm trying to rush too much here. I was going to show you a little piece, which I guess I don't have time for now, of a video. You can look it up on YouTube. And it was an interview I did with the surgeon that did periodontal surgery on me a couple of years ago. And it's a really cool video where he talks about there was no bleeding when he did the surgery. I did zero anesthesia, zero pain medication, nothing after, nothing before, nothing during. And it's a great one to watch because he talks about how nervous he was. And I talk about when he was finished, he literally said, I got to go check my blood pressure, and ran out of the room. Now, he's kind of a funny guy, and I thought maybe he was joking. And then the gal that was there helping him, I said, was he joking? I say this on the video. And she says, I don't think so. And he told me later, and he actually put it in a letter to my dentist, that he had never been that nervous, that he really thought he better check his blood pressure. But he had the anesthesia ready with the cap off, he says in the video. And he was ready because he knew he was going to need it. Never used it, never needed it. But the no bleeding surprised even me, because until I did the interview, which was about a year later, I think, I didn't plan what I was going to say with him or anything. I just did an interview. And when he brought that up, I said, oh, I meant to ask you about that. And he said, no, he says, there's something in the anesthesia that is supposed to help control the bleeding. And I said, I didn't know that, because I fired the first guy they sent me to because he tried to tell me that I couldn't use hypnosis because of the bleeding. Oh. And so I fired him and I went to this guy. And he said, no, there is something in the anesthesia to control bleeding. He said, but it was as if I had given it to you, because he said there was no bleeding whatsoever, none. And he said he was shocked. So
hey, Patti,
over an hour and a half of surgery with no anesthesia. Yeah.
Patti, there's a good story about a dentist, a woman who was going to do that kind of stuff. And she kept saying, it's all right, Nancy. It's going to be fine, Nancy. Don't worry about it, Nancy. And the patient said, my name's not Nancy. And the dentist said, no, my name's Nancy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? There's so much, and I know I was talking fast, so sorry about that. But the thing I can tell you, if you're a little nervous about, the first cancer patient I had was a lady in California. I had all the training. I had studied with you all know the Simonton studies from the 1970s. Is everything good happened in the 70s, didn't it? As far as this kind of stuff. The Simontons, they were doctors, and they had their patients imagining Pac-Man eating their tumors, their cancerous tumors, and they were disappearing, So they published it. They had to publish it because they were doctors. Getting Well Again is the book. He was the keynote speaker at the American Board of Hypnotherapy, one of the first years I went to the conference. It's like, I'm telling you, we are at the center. We are at the center, and it's going to become very evident the next, I think, 5 years more than it ever has before. But my point being, we're already working with medical. You can't work with someone who has a behavior problem, an eating problem, or a biting their nails problem, or no matter what it is, that isn't affecting them emotionally. And that eventually, if you have something affecting you on a physical level, it's going to affect emotions. And it all affects everything. Everything's going to affect everything eventually. And the stress of having a problem that you can't seem to get past, like smoking or drinking or drugs or biting nails or whatever it is, that stress alone starts to ripple out and affect everything else in their life. And in the same exact way, what we're doing with them for that what they think is addressing that one little thing, but we know there's a whole lot behind it that we're actually addressing, that also has that ripple effect. So all of a sudden you work with someone, I'm sure you've all had this happen, that you worked with them to quit smoking. And I had a guy who showed up a year later to class and he said, yeah, I always meant to call you and tell you I don't have my migraine headaches anymore. I said, well, I guess they're not yours anymore then, are they? You gave them to somebody else, but, and I hadn't even done anything about migraines. So just know that you're already doing that kind of work. And that's the message that I wanted to give here tonight, is that we're always affecting the whole organism. Yeah.
Hey, Patty.
Yeah, Art.
Just while this group's together, I had a client early on said, hey, I need to ask you a question. If my body knew how to take care of this, how come I had to come see you in order to make it happen? I said, fabulous question. I don't know the answer, and neither does your conscious mind, or you wouldn't be asking me. So I'm going to hypnotize you. I'm going to ask you, and I'll tell you what your unconscious had to say about it. So I got an answer, and I started hypnotizing my other medical clients, ask the same thing. I got the same answer from every one of them. Do you know what they said? Here's why I had to come to see you. The reason I didn't do it, nobody asked me to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, is that what medical hypnotists need to do, is just ask them to get well? And of course, there's a particular way of asking. It's not just, hey, please get well. But I was just thinking, how many times has a doctor ever said, would you mind getting better for me, please? Now, they want to know about your symptoms so they know what kind of pill to give you. I mean, that's as far as it goes.
Right. Well, this is why what we do is so special. It's the main reason, because we respect the person sitting in front of us, and we respect the design. We respect what got them here. And that word intention, we always know that there's some kind of always wanting to move toward health. There's got to be a positive intention for whatever has been going on, something that needs to be heard, needs to be listened to and addressed and respected. And then the client comes up with the solutions on their own. I don't think we're going to take a break now, because I didn't talk for very long. I just talked really fast. So, because I thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I didn't say 1/10 of what I was planning to, but that's what happens sometimes. So I want to move on to Peter Blum, because we don't need a break after that little short thing. And Peter Blum, he's going to tell us how to get our frequency flyer miles. I have to say it slow because it's kind of hard to say fast. Too many R's and F's in there. But Peter has had a practice in Ericksonian hypnosis since 1987. In 2009, he was inducted into the Order of Braid, a Lifetime Achievement Recognition in 2014, Instructor of the Year, National Guild of Hypnotists. Boy, there's a bunch of them. I can, again, so many. These people all have so many wonderful awards. Life Fellow in hypnotherapy. Oh, and he's in the Hall of Fame too. Oh, cool. All right, Peter, he studied healing and ceremony with Beautiful Painted Arrow. I'm going to let you tell them the rest of this, because you know what? It'll sound so much better coming from you. So I'm really excited to have Peter here. Thank you. And I know you had a busy day, so I'm really happy you were able to make it.
Okay, thank you. You can all hear me and see me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
First of all, my apologies to everyone else, because I love you all, and I'm so happy to see you even on the little tiny screen. And I always learn something from hearing you, and circumstances just something came up and I had to do something else.
You'll get the videos.
I will get the videos, and I'm emulating Horton right now. I dreamt that I was an elephant made by Dr. Seuss. And Horton is one of my heroes, because Horton says, I said what I meant, what I said, and I said what I meant. And an elephant is faithful 100%. And because I told you that I would do this at 7 o'clock, I'm here. I'm not home. I'm in my son's apartment in New York City, having just helped him move a whole bunch of stuff from a storage locker and driven him down. And I said, well, I can set up my computer and I can bring all my toys in with me. So I don't have all of my toys. If I was home, I'd have a lot more toys. And I had to remind myself because, you know, I'm asked all the time to make to come up with titles for presentations. And I just say something that comes into my mind at the moment. And then months later, I'm like, my God, what was I going to talk? I don't frequency flying miles. What is? Well, I do remember that years ago, my good friend Susan and I were trying to combine sound healing with energy healing. I was doing sound healing. She's a reflexologist and an energy healer, and we were offering joint sessions. And we decided we would call it frequency flying. So, you know, because you want to change somebody's frequency, and I don't know what anyone else spoke about today other than hearing you, Patti, but I would venture to put forth that all of our words and all of our work with energy and our various ways of approaching people's stories and belief systems and reframing on another level could be seen as changing their frequency, changing their vibration, and mostly we're not really calibrating that, although we're might be aware of, like, oh, I'm having a low frequency day or high frequency day. And that's another funny thing. I don't get me started, but I think, what is all this about? Why is high good and low not so good? You know, why is white light? Everybody wants to go toward the light, and I think the darkness is also pretty cool. I mean, that's where all this mystery dwells, in the darkness, in the cave of the unconscious mind. Anyway, I came across, but before I do anything else, I did bring a few things because I know the words are great, but I'm the guy with the toys. And this is a new toy that many of you haven't seen before. You know, I play the balls, and this is it's a double barrel bowl, a double bowl thingy. And it's very special. And here's the sound of it. And I can kind of wave it around, you know, which gives it some sense that it's not just emanating from a single source, but it's moving. And of course, working with sound a lot, sound is audible frequency. I mean, we're all creatures of vibration, and every cell in your body is vibrating. There's no such thing, you know, from my friends who are in the medicine people world of indigenous shamans, they say there's no such thing in our perception as an inanimate object. Everything is alive. And so they talk about the tree people and the cat people and the squirrel people and the ant people and the drum, the spirit of the drum has a spirit, it's alive. So each of these instruments also has an actual spirit and a vibration, and it affects us very much. And another thing that I found recently that I wanted to share with everyone, because I'm always looking for more toys, and this is called a flow chime, and it sounds like this. So I believe that these sounds, you know, are such powerful medicine, and combined with words, there's a synergistic effect. So we all know the power of belief and the making of a suggestion. And The basic tool that I use in my sound work with almost all of my clients at some point are these tuning forks, and they're easy to carry around, and they're unassuming, and they're sort of like, well, familiar. Everybody knows. They may not know what a singing bowl is or what some of my weirder, more esoteric instruments, but everybody, tuning forks. So these tuning forks are tuned to a C and a G, and when I play them for myself, and I'll often tune myself in the morning just by gently tapping them on the knee and then holding them up to my ear. And I don't know where the microphone here is, but don't know if you can hear that. So what I tell them is that there is scientific research, and that gets people's attention, as you know. And here's an article in the back of my friend John Beaulieu's book called Human Tuning, and this is a T-shirt that I got from him, by the way, and it says "Tune Your World." Biosonics, Tune Your World. So in the back of his book, there's an article from MedPub on the effect of people listening to the C and the G at the same time, which is the interval of a fifth, which is a divine interval, the perfect fifth. And when they hear that, what it showed in the laboratory was that there was a down regulator for stress, that it caused a spike in the production of nitric oxide. For some reason, that particular interval. So is this really true? I think it is. But by telling people that this will happen, I'm doubling the chance of them getting that effect, right? So it's I was watching my good friend, Dr. Louis Malmadrona, whom some of you have had the pleasure of meeting, the coyote medicine psychiatrist. And he's a genuine psychiatrist, but he's also spent a lot of time with traditional elders, and he's a sun dancer and puts people up on the mountain for Vision Quest, and he's quite the character. And he was demonstrating one time, we were doing a seminar, he was demonstrating Cherokee bodywork, which was fascinating. He claims that the father of osteopathy went and studied with the Cherokee and learned a lot from them. But he was demonstrating how pulling the head out and shaking people. And then he said, now I'm going to do some Cherokee brain surgery. And we all sat forward and we were like, what's this? And he took out these white stones and he said, a friend of mine was doing some work, road excavation down in Tennessee, and they broke into the side of a mountain. And in this cave were these special white round stones, and they have a very particular ability to help with calming and healing. And he placed one they're small, about that big, by the person was lying down on a massage table. He put one by each ear, and then he worked with them for a while. And afterwards, I kind of, backstage, I pulled him aside and I said, well, Louis, what's up with those stones? And he said, well, shamans got to have good props. So, is there an actual effect? I believe that there is, but it's also the setup. My good friend and the man who I always credit whenever I remember, Richard Zarrow, who brought me into this field in the 80s and trained me, he drilled this into me. He said 80% of your success is based on your setup. So doing a good setup, creating a place where magic can happen, where you excite people's imaginations and you get them involved, and we're going to do this and we're going to work on this and you'll just, who knows what's possible, is very important. And to be congruent, that I have to believe that. I can't just be reading words off of a page. I really need to know that. And those of us who have, like you, Patti, and I'm sure all of us have benefited personally from the magic of hypnosis, of mind over matter, of the power of suggestion, of the utilization of the vast untapped resources of the unconscious mind, we know. And so we can say, yes, this SHIT works. I can testify. I know I have these things happen to me, and you know, so creating that theater of what was it? Hess called it the magic theater, right? For madmen only. And this recently came across my I would say desk in the past, but I'd say my screen. And it says 7 things that affect your vibrational frequency from the point of view of quantum physics. And it says everything is energy. We are vibrating beings on certain frequencies. And this claims there are only 2 kinds of vibration, positive and negative. I would differ from that. I'd say that there's all sorts of vibrations, but it says, it lists the 7 things. The first is thoughts, the importance of thoughts. Every thought emits a frequency out to the universe. And I know the ancient esoteric principle that I learned way before I came into hypnosis, which is energy, matter follows thought. Matter follows thought. First comes the thought. Anything that we create in the physical world, from the Eiffel Tower to the pyramids to, you know, the pie that you baked in the oven, was first a thought in someone's mind. So first it comes the thought, and then comes the, okay, how does this get manifested in the world? So matter follows thought. The second thing that affects your vibrational frequency is the companies. People around you have a direct impact on your frequency. If you surround yourself with happy, positive, and determined people, you'll also enter this vibration. If you surround yourself with complainers, pessimists, be careful indeed. They can decrease your frequency and therefore prevent you from exploiting the, you know, well, anyway, we're very sensitive. We're affected by the frequencies of others around us. Music is very powerful. Number 3. Number 4, the things you watch. I mean, when we watch shows on TV, when we watch movies, when we watch the news, I personally don't watch the news, but that's just my personal preference. My significant other spends hours in front of the TV watching the news, and we agree to just, you know, have that difference. But it's hard not to be affected by, I worked as a journalist in the 70s and 80s before I came into the field of hypnosis, and we had a saying, if it bleeds, it leads. So that's what is the justification for all the stories of doom and gloom and horror and what we see on the news. Words that we use, I mean, you know, the book that I recommend to many of my clients, I say it's easy to read, and you can just, is for I can't think of the name of it right now. You know the book I'm talking about, the
Agreements.
4 Agreements. Thank you. It's been a long day. And the one of them is always speak impeccably. That our word is very powerful, and always, you know, like, do no harm. Not even beyond even not putting people down or speaking negatively, but even gossip can be very detrimental. So that's important. I had one other thing that I was thinking about talking about, which is not directly on this topic, but it came up yesterday when I was talking to Patti, and I thought it's really on the top of my mind these days. And so I'd like to share it with you all. I'm going to be doing a workshop, a 3-day workshop in April with Dr. Louis Malmadrona and his wife, Barb Mangay. here in Woodstock, New York, where I live, and the title of it is Visioning and Revisioning. And I was thinking, what was it that led all of us into where we are now? What drew us? What occurred to us? What kind of vision did we have that we could become hypnotherapists, that we could become healers? What was the vision of what we do that drew us to this? And in respect for the fact that all human beings are capable of and do in fact have vision. We talk about somebody being a visionary, and we put them in a special category, that they're some kind of a saint or an enlightened being, or that they're receiving it. They have a direct line to source, and the rest of us don't. And I would say, let's step back and look at the fact that we're all visionaries. We all have that ability to tune into guidance. And what are the circumstances that help us to clarify our vision? Traditional people would have certain ceremonies. They would have there's something called a vision quest, where person goes up and sits on a mountain, and an elder or a medicine person or a spiritual being will put them up there, and they'll sit on a little blanket, and they don't move. They don't leave that blanket on the side of the mountain for 4 days, and they go without food or water. And the name for it in Lakota is Hambleche, and that means crying for a vision. That they're actually up there saying, my life has become, I've lost direction. I don't know what I used to know what I was doing, and I woke up with a lot of, or maybe I never did. But at this point, I'm asking for help. And we say, in the world of hypnosis, we're calling to our deep unconscious mind, the resources of our unconscious. And in other cultures and other situations and civilizations, they would be saying, I'm calling out to Great Spirit. I'm asking for my guardian angel. I'm praying to God. Whatever it is the name that you give it, it's a way of saying, I need help, and I want, I'm asking for a clear vision. So that's what I wanted to offer, is how important it is, especially after the last couple of years. I think a lot of people's trees got rocked significantly. Right, and we were in shutdown, lockdown, and trying to rebuild it now and put it back together again. So there's visioning, and there's also revisioning, which is to have the vision again, but it also comes from the same root as the word to revise, to take it out, dust it off, and say, is it still viable? Is it still the vision that I had 40 years ago that led me to say, yes, I finally found out what I want to do when I grow up. Because when I was in my late 30s, I used to tell people, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And then I discovered the world of hypnosis and the world of sound healing. And I said, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. Now, is it still that same vision? Have other things come in? Is it necessary? Do I want to tweak it a little bit? I think it's important people go on retreat regularly to review and revise and to sort of get a clean slate and a jump start. And so those are just a few thoughts off the top of this head of an elephant that dreamt that it was a human being, or maybe like Chuang Tzu said, I was a man and I fell asleep under a tree and I dreamt I was a butterfly. Beautiful dream. And when I awoke, I wasn't not sure for one moment if I was a man who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or if I was a butterfly who was dreaming he was a man. Okay, so
That's
I'm
funny. Dreams have come up a lot today.
What's that?
Dreams have come up a lot today.
I must have tuned into the zeitgeist here then.
Yeah.
Right? All right.
I think so.
Well, that's it for me. I'm happy to end up right at 7:30, and I don't know
Let
what.
me let me ask you a question. Well, actually, I had you a little longer than that, I
All
think, but
right. Well, all right. I'll
you can
make
keep
something
going
up.
if you want.
Yeah, I'll make something up. What? Ask me a
I was going
question.
to ask you a question though about dreams because
Yeah.
it's come up a couple times today. And I've always had very interesting dreams, shall we say, since I was a kid. And I have great respect for my dreams, and I know I do things in my dreams, and I learn things in my dreams, and I connect with people in my dreams. But have you ever had a dream? This is something I've never heard anyone else say. A dream where you actually are dreaming and you know you're dreaming, and you wake up and you know that you were dreaming, and then it ends up, no, you woke up within the dream
Oh
thinking,
yeah,
now I'm awake, but I'm
yeah,
still actually asleep.
yeah,
I've had that happen more than once, and it's a bizarre feeling. Because then when I really do wake up, I'm like, well, is this it? Or, is there going to be another?
yeah. I know friends of mine who have really gotten deeply into working. I think it's called an oneirologist,
Hmm.
neurology, the study of dreams.
Yeah.
And my mentor, Richard Zarrow, had a 7-part seminar that he offered, future shaping. And it was step by step taking people through the basics. First of all, a global frame of Gaia and the omega point, which were, I think he was kind of cutting edge back in 83, 84 when he was talking about James Lovelock and the Gaia hypothesis and Teilhard de Chardin's vision of the omega point. And so he wanted to give people a global frame that we can all possibly wake up. There's a possibility of instantaneous global enlightenment, which is what the omega point was. And then after that, he went into basic future shaping 1 and 2, and advanced future shaping, which was just teaching people self-hypnosis and visualization and making suggestions to themselves and etc. And then there was a seminar on prosperity programming. And I thought, well, that's very interesting. And I said, Richard, in my naivete, I said, well, what does that have to do with hypnosis? And he said, everything. A person's a willingness to let themselves have. What is their havingness level? How much abundance and goodness and love and prosperity are they going to allow into their lives? And, what are the limits that we put on what we're allowed to have? And so that was a big one. And then the next one after that was lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
And he had been studying that, and he worked with people and encouraged people to practice, giving themselves a suggestion before they went to sleep that they would wake up in their dream and know that they were dreaming. Yeah. And again, I said, well, that's fascinating, but Richard, what does that have to do with what we're doing with hypnosis? And he again said, everything. Listen, man, if you can wake up in your dream at night when you're sleeping and know that it's a dream, then you can wake up in this dream, the big one, and know that it's a dream.
Cool.
I was like, oh, you mean Maya? You mean what the Hindus talk about as, this is all illusion. It's all a dream.
It also implies, at least to me, what I heard when you said that was it implies that you have a sense of control over it.
Yes,
both in sleep and in.
Yes,
so if you can control that, you can control that.
Yeah, well, there's 2 sides to that as well, because there's also what I call the illusion of control.
Well, but yeah, or at least direct maybe is a better word. Direct, yeah.
Hey, Peter, I was very studiously taking notes about these 7 things: thought and company and music and what you watch and your words, and then I didn't get 6 and 7.
All right. Well. Okay. According to and I can send everybody who wants a PDF of this.
Oh, I'd love it. I love it.
Number 5 was the mood. It says, whether at home or at work, if you spend a lot of time in a disorganized, dirty environment, it will also affect your vibrational frequency, improve your surroundings, organize, clean up your environment. So that's the other one. And the last but not least is gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay.
Gratitude. Yeah, gratitude. This is a habit you should incorporate into your life now. So, this has become a kind of cliched thing, but underneath it all, it's extremely valid. That when
According to Bruce Lipton, that affects the blood, which is the medium that all of our cells live in. And he said that's the healthiest thing that you could do for your blood is live in a state of gratitude constantly.
It's powerful.
Amen.
I did a free webinar last year or the year before, one of my short ones. It's on YouTube. It's the science. I changed the name of it because when I started looking up stuff about gratitude, I ran into all this science. And it's called The Science of the Power of Gratitude.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of that kind of thing. It's amazing.
Which person on the planet does gratitude lists every morning and every evening?
Yeah.
You read all of their books. That's one of the
Sure.
first things they do.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was, Peter. If you can send me that list, I'll make sure everybody that signs up, because we're going to have
sure. Yeah,
people can still sign up to get the videos through
not
the
a
rest of
problem.
the month.
I'll
So.
send that out. And again, I don't agree with every word in it. It's not my words, but there's enough good stuff there that it's worth looking at.
Food for thought.
Yeah, but it does feel, it changes my frequency when I remind myself of how much I have to be grateful for, and I encourage my, some clients will sometimes come in as you were referring to earlier, just when I tuned in with their list of grievances and the very all too familiar victim mentality. Right? Why do these bad things happen to me? And woe is me, and a tale of woe. And I said, well, what is there in your life that you right now could say you're grateful for? And it redirects the attention. Even if momentarily, it's I still do some of the things that I learned from Richard. Not always. I mean, he had a certain protocol, and he wanted me to do the same thing in every session, just as he taught it to me. And I said, Richard, I'm an improvising musician. I don't work that way. And he said, well, just do it for the year or two that you're training with me, and then you can go off and do your own thing. And it was valuable because I tend to be on the defiant compliant spectrum. I always lean more toward the defiance side. So it was a lesson for me in balance to be compliant and say, okay, I can do that. And one of the first things that I do with clients is to say, I'd like you to make 3 lists. And the first list is everything I like about myself in the first person, right? Everything I like about myself externally. If I look in the mirror and I like my eyes, I like my figure, I like my hair, I like my lips, I like the way I move. I like the words, the sound of my voice. Second, everything I like about myself internally. No, not your pancreas and your kidneys. No, but what? I'm a loyal friend. I'm a very honest person. I'm generous. Those kind of qualities. And third list is everything about myself that I would like to change. And again, the wording there is key. You don't want to frame it like everything about myself I don't like. They've already done that. Let's put it in terms of what everything about myself that I would like to change. Now, by starting with the first 2 lists, what you have helped them to do, hopefully, is access a resource state.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always a good thing to do before tackling what it is that's not working, what went wrong, what you'd like to improve, what's less than. Some of my friends who are over the top in terms of their language, they say, well, that was a little bit less than excellent. So if there's anything about themselves that's less than excellent, that they would like to change, they're first coming from a place of having acknowledged, okay, I feel good about these things. I just built that base of self-esteem a little bit. And that's a good way before addressing what you want to change. And the other thing I tell I share this over and over again when I train my students, I say I basically ask my clients the same two questions over and over again in one form or another. And the first question is very simply, what do you want?
Right.
I mean, we need to ascertain that to form any kind of a contract, to know that we're moving in the same direction. I can't help you unless I know what you want. So what do you want is the first question. And often, out of habit, they might start out by telling you what they don't want.
Right.
We need to gently redirect that in terms of, and then, the well-formed outcome, the model of specificity, and is it time engaged, and how would you know that, what is sensory based, how would you know that you've achieved it or you're getting closer to it, and is it positively framed, etc. So you work with refining that. And the second question, what are your resources for achieving that?
Oh, I've never heard that before.
And that is, we hypnotists, we love our presuppositions. And there are a couple of key presuppositions there. First of all, you got resources. That's very important to remind them of that. Because often they show up and they're like, I ain't got no resources. I'm broken. Nothing's working. Of course you do. So what are your resources? And secondly, that you have resources that it is achievable. You just need to figure out what are your resources for achieving that. And that may take a while. It may, take some soul searching and some reframing, and etc. But those are very important questions, and I'll go back to them over and over again because, I don't know if he actually said it or not, but I like to quote Erickson as having said, your job is not to get your patients into trance so much as it is to get them out of the trance they're already in, right? And so we've all it's done some iteration of that on our own. And here's the thing, which we all know, is our clients, many of them, are way better hypnotists than they know, and maybe even better than we are. And if we're not careful, they will do their damnedest to put us into their trance. And when they walk out of a session and you're sitting there going, God, that the person has every reason, every right to feel crummy and depressed. They've done it to us, right? It's worked. So how do we remain, this is a constant question. How do we stay balanced? How do we remain open heart, compassionate, empathic, but have boundaries and say, I beg to disagree. There is a solution to that. Any questions?
That's an important one, Peter, because that's one of the things I think as trainers of hypnotists that they need to know how to have that boundary. See, I think of it like from back in show business again, where you're up on stage and you've been rehearsed, you got to be creative and on your feet and think in the moment, but you also have to be aware of the audience's reactions and time according to that. And I think Michael Watson calls it the hokey pokey, where you got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, right? And if some of you are too young, maybe remember that. But that's the way I think it's really important for hypnotists to create a certain type of a clearing mechanism.
Well,
it's very I call it my bubble,
Hokey pokey is very close to hocus pocus.
Yeah, right. And I really think when I'm in that state where all that other stuff is, but you gotta still be the guide.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more intuitive. I'm more in touch with their inner mind, communicating with me when I'm in that state. that I found a way to create that it's like, how do you teach people that though, right? Because I found it sort of just through working through with different clients and realizing you can't let that stuff come in, but you still got to be really deeply in touch with their inner self and what's happening, with them. It's
Ronnie,
a skill.
you had a question? Or
Yeah, but mine was just a side thing. I just wanted to know what where you bought your double.
oh, ah,
So I don't want to break anything up.
yeah, no. It I have a couple of friends, Al and Adam, and they've had a business, mail order business for many years called Shaman's Dawn, and they recently opened a shop, a retail outlet, and they make their own blends of tinctures and oils, and they sell powders and ointments and shamanic tools and bells and gongs and drums and shakers. And I know them, I've hung out with them, we've done some work together, and they're good guys. And I went in and I was walking around the shop and saying, this is all great, I got that, seen that. And then I saw this thing. I said, whoa, what?
Yeah, that's wild.
That?
It looks like a lopsided dumbbell.
It's called a damaru. A damaru is in Tibetan Buddhism is a two-sided drum, but this is a two-sided bowl. And what they did was they took two tuned bowls. These are in a good harmonic relationship.
Right. Yeah.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Anyway, it works. And I said, I gotta have that. So I got it. And so you can look them up. I don't mind giving them a plug. They're friends. They could use the business, Shaman's Dawn and Socrates. And yeah.
And do they mail order? Do I have to make you go over there and buy it for me and give you the money?
Where are you, Ronnie?
I'm in Florida.
No, you have to come to Woodstock.
Oh, yeah. Well.
No.
But you'll be in Florida eventually at one of our.
Not eventually. I'll be there in May at the
right?
in Orlando. Yeah, I go there. I was going to say religiously, but it's not a religious thing. Although I was asked to lead the Sunday service.
Oh.
So I will have to.
Are you still doing the Friday night bowls?
Oh, so I'm going to have to put on my other hat here. And
because you're delivering, I get it.
Yeah.
Be an interfaith minister, which I am, and do a Sunday service.
Are you still doing Friday
night bowls? Yes,
you're still doing good.
Monday.
You gotta go to that.
Now, yeah, I did mention future shaping. As in terms of this step-by-step way that I was tied down and force-fed and chafed at the bit, but learned it, and it stood. What is that expression? It is stood me in good stead. Anyway, I have used it on and off. I don't use it with everyone, but I refer back to it. And my students often are like, when I'm teaching them, they're like, well, how do you, we can't figure out what you do. You're always sort of like flying by the seat of your pants, and you seem to be making stuff up all the time and telling stories and just, can't you give us scripts? And I said, I don't use scripts. You can find scripts in some of the curriculums and some books, and I encourage you to write your own scripts. But what I can do is I can give you a step-by-step protocol. And so I'm going to be doing a one-day post-conference down in Orlando on Monday on future shaping, on how to lead your client through a series of 3 to 6 sessions in a modular fashion and build on teaching them self-hypnosis and visualization. And that's what I'll be doing down there. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm also doing... right after the Sunday service, I'm going to be doing a 45-minute one on the serenity prayer for hypnotists and their clients. So I think it kind of leads right into what we were talking about, right? Which is how how do we decide what we can control? That waking up in the dream and saying, yeah, it's a dream. I can do anything I want up to a point. Up to a point, because everybody else is dreaming this dream at the same time. And, Bob Dylan said, I'll let you be in my dream if you let me be in yours. All right. Any other random thoughts?
I think this is considered the panel because
All right.
we were going to do a panel, but there's only a few people here, and we kind of kept it pretty open to questions the whole way through. So if there's anything else that y'all have that you want to ask, or
Patti?
Yeah, all right.
I have a question about another Patti. I just was taken by the interview with Patti Conklin that came out last month in the Ask the Professional.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Who was 28 years old before she realized that her way of seeing, literally seeing the world, was not the same as everybody else's, and she can see particles. And I want to work with her some because she said that I can see movement, and I look at a person, and it's helped my medical intuitive, because I look at and if there's movement, that's good, that's help. And then I look over here, and there's a part of the person that's just totally still, not moving at all. That's where the problem is. And so my intervention is to get those particles shaking and moving again, and then they get well. And so she said the two modalities that I have found are the most powerful is color and sound. And so I can't wait to work with her and find out, because I use a lot of color in my work, and sound also, for that matter. But she's taken it about 1,000 miles further than I ever thought of, and I can't wait to learn what she does and how she does it. But
Wow, Patti Conklin, yeah.
One of the examples was, okay, I've got cancer. Okay, what color is it to you? What color seems like the cancer? Now, if you were well, what does health look like? What color is health? And now my job is to help you get from this color to that color, and so it was just putting out of the normal context into a whole different modality that maybe you could help people and break loose from some of the hangups they've got with reality, and just work in an abstract way. So anyway, I just wondered, with the medical area, do you know Patti Conklin, or have you heard of her? She's a Georgia gal.
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh, yeah. In California, she was always at the ABH conventions.
Is that right?
I remember
Patti was at the very first combined IACT IMDHA conference in Miami.
Is that right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There, I know Patti pretty well. I brought her to Woodstock because I wanted to bring her and expose my students to her work. And I haven't been in touch with her recently, but yeah, she's a very different, interesting approach to things. Yeah, she told me that she refused to read any books about healing. She did not want to be adulterated. She wanted to just come from her own personal experience and insight.
Well, I'm looking forward to studying with her, and that was one of my New Year's resolutions for 2023, is to do some work with Patti. And so anyway, just wondered, because I don't know how I got this far, and I never heard of Patti before. I didn't know about her work.
Yeah, I never did know her personally, but yeah.
She was working with Dick Setfin for a while. The two of them were co-presenting.
And I worked with Dick some too, and I really liked him a whole lot. And then I saw that she had done something with him, so pretty.
I was there in California when Patti was at her table in the exhibitor area, and I was at the next table. And Dick walked in, and he hadn't met Patti before, and there was this, you could see like laser beams going back and forth between the two of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I remember, but I didn't know her personally, but I always remembered when I'd see her there, she had like some kind of presence that just was so different from everyone else. It was just a different, very different person.
Well, you know, there are aliens walking amongst us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And here's 6 of them right here together.
That's right. And I don't want to
Like that
alienate
scene-
any of them.
Like that scene in Men in Black when they had all the screen up with all the aliens who were appearing as humans now. Tony Robbins, Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Here we are on that screen.
There you go. And Art, when you were talking about downloads earlier,
Hmm.
I've had dreams. There's been certain phases of my life when I would come out and tell my husband after I got out of bed, I'd say, I had, since we're talking about aliens, I was half joking, but I wasn't sure what it was, where I'd say, I think I got another download last night from,
Oh, mhm,
From-
mhm.
and it was really like literally a download of some kind of information that I don't know where it came from. Interesting stuff.
Listen, my brothers and sisters, my brother and sisters.
You need to go.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I have.
You've got a long day.
Drive back upstate now, and I'm
Oh.
so glad I could join you for a little bit, and I look forward to seeing some, if not all of you, in soon in Florida or wherever. Shelley,
Absolutely. You're going to drive tonight?
We'll talk, Shelley, you and I, and yeah, I'm going to drive at least part
Wow.
of the way back. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. Thanks, Shelley
Yeah.
Stockwell, Michael Watson's out there somewhere, Art Emmerich, and thank you, Brenda, Renee, and there was someone else here earlier, wasn't there? And
How about Wes Rocky? Wasn't he part of
yeah,
this?
Wes,
Wes.
he had to leave early, but yeah, but there'll be other people seeing this, so I hope you all got a lot out of it. I know I did. It's just, I
It
feel
was terrific. It was
revived.
really great.
I really enjoyed it. So thank you all so much. And
Thank
if
you,
you know
Patty, for
anyone else that
doing
might be
this.
interested, I'm sorry.
Thank you for doing this, Patty.
Yeah,
you're
Patty,
welcome.
this is
And
really
your
good.
presentation
you all
was really
know it-
wonderful.
Yeah.
No, it
anything
was
else you wanna
wonderful. I
say?
really enjoyed it. Thank you. I learned a lot.
I think you did your service today,
Yeah.
and a lot more. So I
Thank you,
think we're
Patty,
good.
for putting this together. It was really
Oh,
thoughtful.
Thank
I
you
mean,
all.
as a newbie, you guys were awesome. This is
Nice
really
to
going to
see
be
you,
helpful for the
Ronnie.
people who weren't.
And as an old bee, they all also were awesome for me too. As an old bee, I guess
Yeah.
that's.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
I'm well seasoned. That's what I like to say. I'm well seasoned and getting spicier all the time, right, Shelley?
I think we're ripe.
Right. I don't know about that one. That takes it a whole nother direction. So anyway, thanks for coming, all of you. Appreciate it.